This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, Heather Ho there. It's Jeff Cutastrophe and welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe on this date. And on this date, October the 24th, 1989, the World Series resumes after a 10-day layoff. But it was for good reason. It wasn't because of a terrorist attack, it was because of a act of terror known as earthquake. Terror to most people, like losing their lives or losing their property, all of that. The Oakland A's and the San Francisco Giants were meeting each other, cross-town rivals, since San Fran had moved from New York in 1958, and Oakland moved from Kansas City in 1968. So Oakland and San Fran were always competing for numbers, attendance numbers, and all that across the bay from each other. So anyway, this was known for the Bay Bridge, called the Bay Bridge series, because of them being part of the Bay Bridge between San Fran and Oakland and the Bay Area Rapid Transit System named BART. Unfortunately, though, there would be problems, and a massive earthquake had happened, and all that. Anyway, so in 1989, the San Francisco Giants pulled off a big win to win the NL West with their pitching and their hitting being timely, and they took out the long-suffering Chicago Cubs in 5 games in the NLCS. Oakland would take down my hometown Toronto Blue Jays squad in 5 games, thanks to Ricky Henderson being a one-man show. Game 1 saw Oakland shut out San Francisco, thanks to Dave Stewart doing his job and all of that. They had to pay tribute to the late Commissioner Bart Giamatti, who passed away September the 1st, just days after handing Pete Rose his lifetime ban. Giamatti's son Marcus threw out the first pitch. Anyway, Dave Stewart would face Scott Garrett. Oakland got an RBI single by Tony Phillips. And then Walt Weiss thought he had a ground ball out, but Will Clark had a terrible throw to the plate. The run scored to make it 2-0. And then Ricky Henderson had an RBI single to make it 3-0. Oakland got a few home runs by Dave Parker and Walt Weiss, and it looked pretty impressive. Game 2 saw Oakland crush San Fran 5-1. As the 4th inning was the huge one, as Dave Parker almost got a home run, right? He scored Jose Canseco on the double. Anyway, Dave Parker almost got caught on that. But anyway, Terry Steinbach hit a 3-run home run off Rick Rushell to left field, making Mike Moore the winner. And the A's went 5-1. So it was just huge and all of that. I know I didn't do a event on the Loma Prieta earthquake, but this is what I'm gonna add this in. So anyway, it struck October 17th, 1989 at 5:04 p.m. local time, mind you. So game 3 was supposed to start at 5:35 in San Francisco, or 8:35 Eastern time, if you will. Thousands of people were in the stadium when the quake hit. It was actually the first earthquake in the U.S. to be broadcast by live TV. That people said that the timing of the series actually was a lucky break because it prevented massive loss of life. The key thing was that people on both sides of the bay had left work early or were staying late to participate in after-work group viewings and parties. So basically, the baseball game led them to either go home to watch the game or go do some after-work stuff. And it reduced the traffic. All that. There were 42 people who died on the viaduct in Oakland. It could have been a whole lot worse. Anyway, ABC was actually on the air doing a highlights package before Game 3, like a pre-game thing. Tim McCarver was talking about Dave Parker's double, and then he got interrupted by the earthquake, and Al Michaels said, "I'll tell you what, we're having earth," and the feed cut out. ABC had their technical difficulties screen. And then, Michaels McCarver and Jim Palmer, well, were in the booth and all of that. The audio was restored, and Michaels talked over the bumper, saying that the earthquake was the greatest opening in the history of television, bar none. Fortunately, the CBS radio crew of Jack Buck, Johnny Bench, and John Rooney were actually off the air, and their show was in a pre-taped segment playing from New York. So, anyway, ESPN had live coverage of the series. Jill Torre gave a pregame report, but that was interrupted. They actually could continue their live coverage with Chris Berman and Bob Blake because they had a generator. So anyway, ABC had to have a rerun of Roseanne and the Wonder Years to cover up the time gap before Ted Koppel did news coverage from Washington, with Al Michaels being kind of a reporter and all of that. In fact, Al Michaels won an Emmy for that thing. As for the series itself, it had to be postponed for Game 3, obviously. He said the original reason was the loss of power and, aftershocks and all that. It was initially for 5 days and then added an extra 5 days because they couldn't restore the transmission links. All of that. So, anyway. It was hard. And all that. There was a lot of things happening and all that. So Game 3 happened on October 27th after a 10-day delay. All that. Fortunately, Candlestick Park had minor damage. It was quickly repaired and the stadium was deemed safe to use. At the start of Game 3, emergency responders who aided during the earthquake were honored and were told to throw out the ceremony of first pitch. So because of the 10-day delay, Stewart and Garrett's, the staff aces, could start all of that. And it almost was Bob Walsh versus Don Robinson, but no, it wasn't. Dave Henderson put up a pair of home runs. He almost got 3, but he missed one by inches. But this game would be huge for the amount of home runs hit in this game, 7, which was a record at the time for most World Series home runs hit in a World Series game combined. And Oakland put up 5 of their own, tying the record. Anyway, it was huge and all that. I mean, everything would endure all that. 13-7, Oakland won. San Fran did score 4 in the 9th, but in the end it was too little, too late. Game 4 saw Mike Moore and Don Robinson go head-to-head. All that. So anyway, now Carter is saying the national anthem, Willie Mays, throughout the ceremony of first pitch. The A's looked from pillar to post. It was actually 8-0 after 5.5, and it looked like Oakland was easily going to sweep through San Francisco. But hold on, San Fran put up 6 runs in 2 innings to make it 8-6. And it looked like, with the home runs by Greg Liddon and Kevin Mitchell, that San Fran might make a game out of it. Oakland scored 1 in the 8th, and that was it. Oakland wins 9-6 and sweeps San Francisco. But you can't blame the Giants. They were competitive. That was the last time Candlestick Park hosted a World Series game, was Game 4. The Giants' 4 trips to the World Series after that have come since their move to SBC/Oracle Park. Oakland decided not to celebrate their World Series victory by champagne out of respect for the earthquake victims. They kind of knew that was happening. But the composite scoring was huge. Oakland outscored San Fran 32-14. more than doubling them up. While the first 2 games were like blowouts, if you will. All that. Michaels actually was part of San Francisco's announcing crew for 3 years, so he knew what he had to do. This was the last time ABC would broadcast the World Series from start to finish, and Game 4 was the last ABC baseball game until July '94 when they did that baseball network joint venture thing that was supposed to be huge, but of course it got shut down because of this '94 strike. CBS would take the rights for $1 billion over 3 years, and they lost money with that, all that. ABC would broadcast the World Series in '95, but would only get games 1, 4, and 5 because of the baseball network venture. ABC did not draw a lot of viewers for the series because of the earthquake and interruption of play, all that. So, anyway, there were big changes in the radio booth. CBS Radio lost Jack Buck because he went to CBS for TV coverage to be the play-by-play guy. Bill White would be replaced as an analyst because Bill White would become the National League president after Giamatti's death. Vince Scully would go to CBS Radio after NBC lost their TV rights to baseball. Anyway, it was not terrible and all that, but Oakland would come back to the World Series in 1990 for the 3rd straight year. Unfortunately, though, they did not defend it, as Cincy swept them in the '90 World Series. A lot of people think that was an upset, and it might have been an upset, but Cincy did lead wire to wire in the NL West. Oakland has not been to the World Series since 1990, and only twice have been to the LCS, in '92 and '06, being in 12 times in the postseason. Oakland has not had a World Series win since '89. The Giants failed to repeat as national champs and would have some years of decline. The worst part was '93 when they were actually only 1 game back of Atlanta for the NL West title, but because the wildcard stuff wasn't invented yet, they had to watch the playoffs from home. '97 they went back to the playoffs, but the Marlins swept them in the LDS. The Giants would get to the World Series in 2002 and lost a heartbreaking 7th game to the Angels. But the good news for the Giants is that in 2012, 14, and 2010, they all won all 3 times they won the World Series. So anyway, it was huge and all that. So anyway, that's just what it had to do and all that. So anyway, the Bay Area had some great football teams. San Francisco were the team of the '80s in football. Oakland would get a title in 2015 when Golden State won the NBA Finals. And then in 2017 and 2018, before Golden State kind of moved to San Francisco. And that's where they had the 2022 championship. But yeah, that earthquake was just huge in more ways than one. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do